Good morning and welcome to Elsted's Learners channel. This channel is actually dedicated to students of Divine Flavours Institute who are preparing for the NAPTEX examination. So this is what we are going to do this morning. Very simple topic, biodiversity. By the end of this particular lesson, students are required to define what biodiversity is. They are supposed to also brainstorm and bring about the differences between living things and non-living things using the life processes. The reference points are the 7 life processes. Mind you, this is an integrated science lesson, so we are not going to delve deeper into what biodiversity is all about. So we'll be shallow a bit, but by the end of this lesson, you should be able to understand what biodiversity is. And using the life processes, you should be able to brainstorm and then tell us the differences that is between living things and non-living things. And we'll be laying emphasis on the differences that would exist between plants and then animals. Sorry. So quickly, let's move on to the first topic, the first subtopic, and that has to do with the definition for biodiversity. Biodiversity is defined as the variations in forms of life of various categories of living things on Earth. The term biodiversity is coined from two different terms, that is, bio meaning life, and then diversity meaning variations or differences or variety. So when you put these two words together, it forms biodiversity, which simply means that living things as we are, there will be differences that exist between us due to the forms of life that we exhibit. So if you have plants, for instance, when we say that as part of the life processes, plants are able to carry out something like movement. In the case of animals, it won't be movement alone. It would also be locomotion. So we'll be talking about all these differences that will exist between the various forms of organisms. Biodiversity can be understood from three different perspectives. That is the genetic diversity, and then the species diversity, as well as the ecological diversity based on the habitat that the organisms live in or inhabit. Distinctions between living things and then non-living things. We are going to use the life processes. So briefly, we'll take a look at the 7 life processes that will distinguish living things from the non-living things. Living things are distinguished from non-living things by the 7 life processes. And the life process is defined as the process which are required for the maintaining of bodily functions and are also required for survival. So, chemical metabolism result to the maintenance of the bodily activity, the bodily functions. And if this does not occur, we do not expect survival of the organism. So these 7 life processes gives that particular organism the edge to survive. These 7 life processes will include Mr. Greens, as people normally refer to it, or Mrs. Green. So the if you are going by the Mr. Greens, the M will stand for movement, the R will stand for respiration, G will stand for growth, R will stand for reproduction, E will stand for excretion, N for nutrition, and then S for sensitivity. Without wasting much time, let us look at the differences that would exist between living things and non-living things using the life processes that I have mentioned earlier. With regard to nutrition, living things are able to obtain their own food or are able to make their own food, whilst non-living things don't have that capacity to obtain or make their own food. So nutrition basically is a process by which living things make or obtain their their food. So it does not occur in the case of the non-living things. In terms of respiration basically is referring to the release of energy from the food that organisms consume with or without the participation of a molecular oxygen. So in living things, respiration occur. Non-living things, respiration does not occur. So living things release energy from the food substances through respiration. In terms of excretion, living things remove excess and metabolic waste substances, but non-living things do not. Excretion basically refers to the removal of metabolic waste as well as excess substances from the body. This does not occur in non-living things. Movement or locomotion. And this is a continuation of the distinctions between living things and non-living things. Living things change or displace parts of the body. That is known as movement, or they displace the whole body, known as locomotion. This occurs in living things, but it does not occur in non-living things. What about growth and development? Growth refers to the irreversible increase in the size and weight of an organism due to cell divisions. And this cell division, we are laying emphasis on mitotic cell division. So, growth occurs in living things, but in non-living things, growth does not occur. Sensitivity or irritability. This particular process refers to the response of an organism to a stimuli. So, this stimuli is a depression or an external touch that occurs outside the body of the organism. So, organisms that are living things are able to respond to this stimuli, but non-living things are unable to respond to stimuli. And reproduction. Living things are able to give rise to young ones of their own kind, and this comes in the process of sexual reproduction or asexual reproduction. So, in living things, reproduction occurs, non-living things, reproduction does not take place. In non-living things, it results to fragmentation or something of a sort. Alright, so I am much aware that you have been able to understand what we mean by the differences that exist between living things and non-living things using the 7 life processes. We mentioned that nutrition is there, respiration is there, growth is there, reproduction is there, etc. So these are the life processes that would distinguish living things from the non-living things. They do not occur in non-living things, but they occur in living things. Quickly, I want us to proceed and then we take a look at the distinctions between plants and then animals. Mind you, we are talking about biodiversity, differences that exist between different forms of life or different categories of organisms, living things. So, plants, in terms of movement, plants move part of its body, whilst animals they locomote. So, plants move part of their body. How does it occur? Mind you, the roots are able to grow towards the source of water and nutrients. So that is a movement. The whole body is not being displaced, but just a part of the of the plants during that particular movement or displacement. But in the case of animals, they are able to locomote or move, displace the whole body from one place to another. Another difference in terms of nutrition is that plants are able to manufacture their own food by a process known as photosynthesis. The photosynthesis falls under the bigger category that is autotrophism. But in the case of animals, theirs is by heterotrophic nutrition. They do not manufacture their own food. In terms of response to stimuli, plants don't have specialized structures or cells that is able to coordinate and control the external stimuli or stimuli. But in the case of animals, animals are having specialized uh, cells that form the nervous system for coordination and control of the body activities. Then, in terms of gas exchange in relation to respiration, gas exchange for respiration occurs mostly at daytime in plants, but it occurs at all times in animals. Mind you, during the daytime, we expect that there will be exposure to light. For that matter, photosynthesis will be rapid. That is the manufacture of uh, glucose, and this requires a lot of the carbon dioxide as well as the sunlight. So we expect that the gas exchange will be rapid during the daytime. Mind you, the end product of the byproduct of this particular uh, um, photosynthesis is the release of the oxygen gas. So the rapid exchange of these gases will be more during the daytime, but during the night time it will be lesser. So in plants it occurs mostly during the daytime, that's the gas exchange. But in animals it occurs at all times of the day. Then growth. Growth is apical in plants. That is, it occurs at the tips of the roots and then the shoots. But in the case of animals, it is known as intercalary. Growth occurs in all parts of the body of the animal. In terms of the excretory structures, pardon me, in terms of excretion, um, plants have simple excretory structures for excretion, whereas in animals, they have specialized excretory system that is made up of organs for the removal of metabolic waste as well as excess substances from the body. So these are the differences that exist between the animals and then the plants. The last but not the least is the reproduction in plants and then animals. Reproduction in plants is both sexual and asexual. You can bear or attest to the fact that we can cut part of the plant and we are able to reproduce that part of the plant. But in the case of animals, that does not occur. So this is all that you need to know about the differences that exist between living things and non-living things, as well as plants and then animals. Now, having understood this session, I would like us to take a few look. I'd like us to take a look at this um, exercise.